Hello, everyone, again. How are you today? How are things going? Okay, so let's start. We're going to be talking today about a very brave woman. She's very courageous. And I don't know if you can see um my little trifold here, but we're talking about courage today. And these are all the things. This is courage up here. And these are the things that allow people to be courageous. We have over here, if you can see, who are these represented? If you said policemen, you were correct. What about these people here? What do they represent? These are nurses for COVID-19. They're masked up and they have gloves on and they have full suits on. And does anyone recognize this person here? Who's that? That is the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz. And that's what he was looking for, courage. This lady we're going to meet today, her name is Susan B. Anthony. Susan B. Anthony is from North Adams. That's where she was born and grew up. She did go to New York State, but she stayed in North Adams quite a bit. But do you know what she wanted to do? She wanted women to vote. She felt that women should have the right to vote. Now, that was at a time when nobody thought women should vote. And the men were, especially some of them, very vicious and not nice to her. They would throw objects at her. They would throw rotten tomatoes at her because you know what? She was going around and she was talking to people about how women should really have the right to vote. They should be able to make decisions. They should be able to be part of the family in decision making. And at that time, they didn't allow women to do such things as that. So, Susan B. Anthony is from North Adams. And do you know what else? She's the first female to be on coins. She's on the silver dollar. She also has an amendment named after her. And you know what amendment that is? That's the 19th Amendment. Susan B. Anthony had died just before that was enacted, that 19th Amendment. But did that make her stop? No, she fought for women's rights till she died. She really felt it. She wanted it to be done, and she persevered. She worked right up until she was quite elderly, and she still went. And you know, that reminds me of courage. You have to be zesty. Do you know what zesty means? You have to be alive. You have to have energy. And she had lots of energy. She went around all over the place. She was talking and giving speeches and through to large crowds and crowds at times that weren't kind to her. But she still persevered. She went out time after time to speak to people and say it wasn't right for women not to vote, but that they must vote. She also felt that equal pay for equal work. Truly, she felt that. If a woman was going to go to work, she was going to go out of her household, leave her family, and work the 8 hours or 6 hours or whatever hours it was at that time. She felt they should get the proper pay, just as if it was a man, and especially if she was doing the same work as a man. She felt that there should be equal pay for equal work. Now, coming from North Adams, I have JV possibly has already read the story to you about the 19th Amendment and the right to vote. And the story was about a little girl who was um, Susan B. Anthony's niece. And that was called back at the time women's suffrage. That was the name of that. And the women would go out and they would go out time and time again and they would hold these little placards or these little cards that we see people holding up for Black Lives Matter. They would be out in the streets and they would protest, and they would be going up and down the street, and there would be people that were there that weren't kind to them. They were throwing all sorts of things at them and, just being very nasty. But Susan B. Anthony, like I said, persevered. Perseverance means that you keep going. You don't stop. You keep going, of course, with some kind of intelligence. So Susan would do just that. She had made goals, and she made meeting plans, and she met her meeting goals, and she would schedule talks, and she would go to these places, and she would show up and give her talk. That it wasn't fair and it wasn't kind the way women were being treated. Like I said before, she was very zesty because she went through this her whole life, from a young woman right into when she was elderly. She just kept going at it. And she had to be very brave because, like I said, a lot of these places weren't accepting her. They didn't want to hear what she had to say. They didn't want anything to do with her. So they would discourage her in all sorts of ways. Like I said, throwing tomatoes or throwing objects, or sometimes maybe there could be brawls. It could get quite brutal at times. But she never gave up. She continued, like I said, she continued. When she was scheduled to give a talk, she would go and give the talk, even though there were people in the crowd that weren't accepting of her words. And she had to be authentic and have integrity. Of course she did. She knew in her heart that this was wrong, and so she wanted to right the wrong. And that is exactly what she did right up until she died. And like I said, she didn't see the 19th Amendment, but she was very close to it. She also didn't like the death penalty. That was very close to her heart. She didn't feel like people should be put to death. And her motto was, failure is impossible. So that was her motto to keep her going. And a motto is something that you wake up every day and you think of something that will get you through the day. And that was hers. Failure is impossible. She wouldn't let that get in her way no matter what. So maybe we would work on some of our models. Maybe we could find something that spurs us through the day. What gets us through the day? What helps us to get going? I wonder what helps these policemen and these essential workers and firemen. We know that they have to be very brave, these people. And I wonder what their models are. Maybe you can think of some that they are that they use to get them through the day. And I would love to hear yours. And so in the classroom, we're going to go into more depth about how Susan B. Anthony went around the United States really fighting for women and women's rights. And so I will see you in the classroom. And remember, we're going to be working on our models that day. What's going to get us through the day? See you in the classroom. Bye for now.